Vallabha Girivanadhari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanadhari Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravikajatacharya Shotarshata Shishiman His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Hare Krishna. Oh no. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 3. Are you going to connect or Nelly? Yahi Vava Mahimni Sway Parashmin Kala Mayayoho Rameta Gata Samoha Twaktwa Udashte Tada Ubhayam Yarhi okay. Yarhi Vava Mahimni Sway Parashmin Kalamaya Yoho Rameti Gata Samohas Tvakvodashte Tabodayam Yarhi Vava Mahimni Sway Parashmin Kalamaya Yoho Rameti Gata Samohas Tvakvodashte Tadobayam Yahivava Mahimni Sway Parashmin kalamayoho Ramiti gata samohas Twaktodashte tado bhayam. Emojis? So word for word. Yarhi, at any time. Vava, certainly. Mahimni, in the glory. Sway, of himself. Parasmin, in the supreme. Kala, time. Mayayaho, of the material energy. Rameta, enjoys. Gata samoha, being freed from the misconception. Twaktwa, giving up. Udaste, in fullness. Tada, then. Ubhayam, both the myths. Is this something different? Okay. Both the misconceptions of I and mine. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. This is a big purport. Looks bigger on paper than on the phone. All right. As soon as a living entity becomes situated in its constitutional glory and begins to enjoy the transcendence beyond time and material energy, he at once gives up the two misconceptions of life, I and mine, and thus becomes fully manifested in the pure self. The two misconceptions of life, namely I and mine, are verily manifested in two classes of men. In the lower state, the conception of mine is very prominent, and in the higher state, the conception of I is prominent. In the animal state of life, the misconception of mine is perceivable even in the category of cats and dogs, who fight with one another with the same misconception of mine. In the lower stage of human life, the same misconception is also prominent in the shape of it is my body, it is my house, it is my family, it is my caste, it is my nation, it is my country, and so on. And in the higher stage of speculative knowledge, the same misconception of mine is transformed into I am, or it is all I am, etc. There are many classes of men comprehending the same misconception of I and mine in different colors. But the real significance of I can be realized only when one is situated in the consciousness of I am the eternal servitor of the Lord. This is pure consciousness, and the whole Vedic literatures teach us this conception of life. The misconception of I am the Lord or I am the Supreme is more dangerous than the misconception of mind. Although there are sometimes descriptions in the Vedic literatures to think oneself one with the Lord, that does not mean that one becomes identical with the Lord in every respect. Undoubtedly, there is oneness of the living entity with the Lord in many respects. But ultimately, the living entity is subordinate to the Lord, and he is constitutionally meant for satisfying the senses of the Lord. The Lord therefore asks the conditioned souls to surrender unto him. Had the living entities not been subordinate to the supreme will, why would the living entity be asked to surrender? Had the living being been equal in all respects, then why was he put under the influence of Maya? We have already discussed many times that the material energy is controlled by the Lord. The Bhagavad Gita confirms this controlling power of the Lord over the material nature. Can a living entity who claims to be as good as the Supreme Being control the material nature? The foolish I would reply that he will do so in the future. Even accepting that in the future one will be as good a controller of material nature as a Supreme Being, then why is one now under the control of material nature? The Bhagavad Gita says that one can be freed from the control of the material nature by surrendering unto the Supreme Lord. But if there is no surrender, then the living entity will never be able to control the material nature. So one must also give up this misconception of I by practicing the way of devotional service or firmly being situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. A poor man without any employment or occupation may undergo so many troubles in life, but if by chance the same man gets a good service under the government, he at once becomes happy. There is no profit in denying the supremacy of the Lord, who is the controller of all energies, but one should be constitutionally situated in one's own glory, namely to be situated in the pure consciousness of being the eternal servitor of the Lord. In this conditional life, the living entity is servant of the illusory Maya, and in his liberated state, he is the pure, unqualified servant of the Lord. To become untinged by the modes of material nature is the qualification for entering into the service of the Lord. As long as one is a servant of material concoctions, one cannot be completely free from the disease of I and mine. The supreme truth is uncontaminated by the illusory energy because he is the controller of that energy. The relative truths are apt to be engrossed in illusory energy. The best purpose is served, however, when one is directly facing the supreme truth, as when one faces the sun. The sun overhead in the sky is full of light, but when the sun is not in the visible sky, all is in darkness. Similarly, when one is face to face with the Supreme Lord, he is freed from all illusions, and one who is not so is in the darkness of illusory Maya. The Bhagavad Gita confirms this as follows: Mam chayo vipacharina bhakti yogena sevate sanguram samatitaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So the science of bhakti yoga, of worshiping the Lord, glorifying the Lord, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam from the right sources, not from the professional man, but from a person who is Bhagavatam in life, and being always in the association of pure devotees, should be adopted in earnestness. One should not be misled by misconceptions of I and mine. The karmis are fond of the conception of mine. The gyanis are fond of the conception of I. And both of them are unqualified to be freed from the bondage of the illusory energy. Srimad Bhagavatam and preliminary, the Bhagavad Gita, are both meant for delivering a person from the misconception of I and mine. And Srila Vyasadeva transcribed them for the deliverance of the fallen souls. The living entity has to be situated in the transcendental position where there is no more influence of time nor the material energy. In the conditioned life, the living entity is subjected to the influence of time and the dream of past, present, and future. The mental speculator tries to conquer the influence of time by future speculations of becoming Vasudeva or the Supreme Lord himself by means of culturing knowledge and conquering over ego. But the process is not perfect. The perfect process is to accept Lord Vasudeva as the supreme in everything. And the best perfection in culturing knowledge is to surrender onto him because he is the source of everything. Only in that conception can one get rid of the misconception of I and mine. Both Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam confirm it. Srila Vyasadeva specifically contributed to the illusioned living entities, the science of God, and the process of bhakti yoga in his great literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. And the conditioned soul should fully take advantage of this great science. Om Agana Tamanandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshururmanatam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swambadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shukta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishtamam Shah Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raganaptam Etam Tam Shajivam Savadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Laritam Shri Vishakamitam Shah Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale Shrimante Bhakti Vikas Swaminiti Namane Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale Shrimante Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharnine Nivisheshu Shunivadi Paskatari Starine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare As soon as a living entity becomes situated in its constitutional glory and begins to enjoy the transcendence beyond time and material energy, he at once gives up the two misconceptions of life, I and mine, and thus becomes fully manifested as the pure self. So, Srila Prabhupada gives an elaborate purport to this verse, and so there's so much is actually said. Some of these principles are foundational to Krishna consciousness. Specifically, the point. I mean, it's a simple point, but it eludes so many people that only by Krishna consciousness can we can become free from false material conceptions. He mentions the Gyanis, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But they get to the stage of thinking, okay, well, I'll give up everything. Nothing is mine. I forget exactly. Nirmama. So Prabhupada makes that point. Somewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, he mentions that. What's that verse? How's it start? I can't remember it right now. I think it's 15, like 6 or something like that, or 5. But he talks about like the qualities of like someone they're free from false prestige and they accept nothing as mine. So of course, to be renounced is a good quality, but renunciation in and of itself is not sufficient to attain Krishna or to become Krishna conscious. One has to become attached to Krishna, or one has to become attached to Krishna, and generally that's done by meeting a devotee or engaging in devotional service somehow or other. And then the Krishna consciousness is reawakened or imparted, or anyway, there's different things like that. But anyways, you come in contact with the devotee, and then you get the Krishna, what is it Prabhupada called, the Krishna infection or something like that. So this these couple verses that we've studied in the previous days, verses 1 to 3, they're an answer to, and I'll read the question. I think I just opened it to it actually. They're an answer to, let me see here, to Maharaj Parikshit's question in the previous chapter. I think this is it. Let me check the other. Okay, yeah. So they're an answer to Maharaj Parikshit's question. I'll just read it. So, O Lord Brahman, The transcendental spirit soul is different from the material body. Does he acquire the body accidentally or by some cause? Will you kindly explain this, for it is known to you? So that's like a big question, because a lot of people, like, they speculate on that. They don't know the answer, the different ways of, like, kind of going about it, but it's, like, does the living entity, just fall into the material by accident and just wake up into it? Or, is it, what's the generally people, they don't get that deep, but they ask, like, why am I here? Why was man created? Does life have meaning? What is the meaning of life? And then so many philosophies ensue in that way, that the meaning of life is to be nice to everybody. The meaning of life is to be religious. The meaning of life is to be happy. And then like that. The meaning of life is there is no meaning, or the meaning of life is to party as hard as you can for as long as you can before you can't party anymore. So, and then, of course, different people at different stages of life, they have different, what they consider the different meanings of life. And then one person's meaning in life, it's some, I forget who exactly said it, but they said that their meaning of life is to put a smile on everybody's face, which sounds nice, but the meaning of life isn't any of those things. The meaning of life is to become Krishna conscious. In a room conversation in, I think, 1972 or 73 in the Bhaktivedanta Manor, there was one person, I forget who exactly, but they were, it's actually funny. I've heard a devotee talk about the conversation before. Then I was reading part of it in Shamasunar Prabhu's book. And so the guy is talking and he's trying to explain his point, like, his point is something along the lines of, like, he's arguing that, like, because the devotees are explaining that, like, there's so many problems in the material world because people eat meat, and it's like, and if you're eating meat, like, you can't be like a pure person, because to eat meat and to kill animals is sinful activity. And so if you're sinful, how can you approach God? You're impure. And so the devotees were making that point, and then the professor or whatever, this elderly man was saying, like, he was saying, yeah, that's there, but, like, he was just saying there's so many bigger problems in society than just eating meat. Like, people are, there's so many rich people, they have huge houses, and there's people living out on the streets, and there's not enough food, and there's so many different social problems and things, that are, whatever, that people are suffering right now. We could say something like, this whole thing some years ago with, I don't remember the people's name, but that with the one cop that killed that black guy, and it was a whole big thing, and police violence and racial discrimination, and what else? Other problems that people have. The healthcare is so expensive in America. So he was kind of saying like that there's certain social issues at the time which you have to be adjusted. So like this meat thing is, like, not very practical. And so, anyways. He was trying to make his point, and the devotees kept cutting him off and arguing with him, wouldn't let him talk. And so he got fried out about it, actually. And he was saying, I'm trying to speak, but it's just like, I'm not being heard out, and they just keep talking over me, and then they would talk over him more and argue with them, and then like that. So he was making this point, and it's a valid point. But Srila Prabhupada, time and time again, Prabhupada was very expert in so many different things, but in explaining things in a logical way, and also always just hitting on the point and never letting go of that. And so he was just making the point that, and it's a simple point which we understand, but the main thing is that, we may make all these different material adjustments and, whatever, clothe people and, give people, whatever, affordable housing and things like that. But until people come to the spiritual platform of understanding, and it's a famous verse that Prabhupada would also quote, what is this? Bhoktaryam yagatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. So this verse at the end of the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, I don't know if you could bring that up, but it might be difficult for you. I can just read it also, but let me just navigate around, just so everybody knows the verse. So the translation of that verse is that a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So I don't know if Srila Prabhupada specifically quoted that verse for that instance, but he would always often make that point that there's so many material problems, but the solution is spiritual. So this is the proper understanding of Krishna consciousness. And of course, with that spiritual solution comes solving this material problem that's being mentioned in the purport. Well, the solution is already being given, but getting free from this conception of I and mine. So, and the thing to this I and mine, most people, at least like people that are quasi-spiritual, they have an understanding that like, I and mine is like, you have to get free from that, I, mine, ego. I remember hearing one time somebody, anyways, there's so many funny things that people say. I think this is a common thing, but something along the lines of like, speak a sentence or something, but don't say I. Have you heard something like that before? I know one of my friends was like telling me that anyways, it was like some big revelation he had at some bar with one of our friends. And like he was just like, speak a sentence, but like don't say I. And I guess you say like I a lot or something. And it's like, I didn't hear what the conclusion of it was. Huh? Say it again? Yeah, I. Like don't say I. I don't know. I guess the point is like, that I think I know the friend that he was talking about. He's like some big Buddhist guy. But I guess the point is like, oh, see, you say I, you're like egoistical. I'm like, see how like self-centered you are or whatever. And then the other thing is just like, like he told me so many funny things. I can't relate to it at all. But he's saying like, like we're talking and having a conversation, but just like the whole time I'm like realizing that like, I'm not even listening to the person talking. I'm just waiting to talk again. But just thinking that's how like people live actually. It's like, I don't know, at least like when I'm talking to somebody, like I'm like hearing what they're saying and it's like a conversation. But anyways, so he was like explaining like that, like you don't say like I in the sentence. And then it's just like, what do you say? And then I don't know what you say exactly. I guess you just describe things. It's just a descriptive language. You don't speak anything about yourself because there's no self. So anyways, so he was like explaining that to me. But spiritual people understand that like I is a bad thing. And I can be a bad thing, like as Srila Prabhupada is making the point in the purport, when you start thinking that I am God, that I am the supreme controller, that I am, it's crazy actually. People think that they're God. But then people think, oh, that's really cool, like, oh, that person's God. Or like that person says he's Jesus, like, wow, he's so spiritual, like blowing my mind. I remember when I was young, somebody was like saying they were Jesus. I was interested in the sense of like, wow, somebody actually thinks they're Jesus. I wonder what this person's like. But anyways, most of the time there's just some crazy people. But then it's like too, if someone says like, oh, I'm Jesus, or like, like I'm God, I'm Supreme, I'm Krishna, I'm Muhammad, people like, okay, all right, they get a following. But if someone goes around and starts saying, like I'm George Washington or whatever, or something like that, or like I'm Christopher Columbus, then people are like, yo, this guy's crazy, bro. Or like I'm Trump, bro. It's like, I'm like Trump went back in the past and died and then was born again. I'm like the reincarnation of the future Trump or something. So anyways, people say some crazy stuff, and then people understand that person's like, cuckoo or out of their brains. So, but like when someone says they're God, it's like, wow, that's like, the person's like, I could feel, I feel it in my heart. That's the thing, people, they feel it. What they're saying, I feel it, and then it's just a whole thing based on feelings. Then we won't get on the sentimental trip. But the thing is, so this people understand that people are like egotistical people. And then it's understood sometimes like in big companies and things in different professions that people, they understand that people are really egotistical and like that, or like a boss or whatever, things like that. Anyways, there's so many like little funny things about that. But people understand this conception of I or even mine. And so then there's spiritual people, just like I sometimes see this, YouTube is like always increasing in different ways to bewilder you. I remember back in the day when YouTube, there was like none of these ads and things like that, but it's like practically half the thing is ads. And so now they have ads of like new movies. And so one of the movies that I saw one time, I didn't watch it, but it had like Ram Dass, like, and his movie's like Becoming Nobody. And so I guess that's like, anyways, he wrote that book also too. I forget that, Be Here Now also. So it's the understanding of like, that I have to get free from this conception of I, mine, I have to become nobody. But then also too, then that's not the perfection of spiritual life, becoming nothing. It's a misconception. But then they have that they have that idea of like, so something the matter with this material conception of I and mine. And Prabhupada really highlights this in the purport by explaining, mine. It's what he says, it's my house, it's my body. And we see that too, that it's my body. And that's the whole, chant that they do, that, my body, my choice. With the, I don't know what they say, they have those euphemistic terms, but Planned Parenthood, or, in blunter terms, kill the baby in the womb, what was that? Kill the baby in the womb association. But they have these nice terms so that they cover it up, so it seems like a nice thing, like Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood means, how to kill the baby nicely. So so it's my body, so therefore it's my choice. I do what I want with it. So, I can, go out and I can party as hard as I want. And I can take as many drugs as I want, through all the holes in my body, whichever one hits me the quickest and the hardest. I could put whatever I want in my veins. I can eat this, eat that, because it's my body. It's my house, so I do what I want with it. So it's a misconception, whatever. My caste, I'm very proud of, whatever. In America, there's no conception of caste, actually. There's like, aristocrat. Generally people, whatever. There's like some rich families and things like that, but people, they don't really care so much about their families in the West. It's just like, whatever. They're not really so proud of that. It's my nation. That's a big thing in America, my nation, my country. In all the different countries too, I'm assuming, but they're sure they all have their national anthem and, whatever. I don't know if, anyways, it's too bad Vishnu Chittaprabhu's not here, or Chandan, but I remember growing up, and then you have to pledge the allegiance to the flag. I completely forgot about that, actually, till we were at the Trump rally, and then they pledged, whatever, did the Pledge of Allegiance and things, and then it got like dead silent. Everybody froze and just like put their hand on the heart and like started doing that whole thing. And, and I was just like, oh yeah, I remember doing that every single day growing up in school, I pledge allegiance to the flag. And then some of the other stuff, I remember the Star Spangled Banner, we'd have to say that, and other things, to the United States of America, anyways. And so doing that every single day, and then that reinforces absolutely the misconception, because you're thinking, yes, I am a proud citizen of America, and the flag, and to the nation, one nation under God, and fighting for freedom, democracy, and God all over the world, and then it reinforces the misconceptions, because then it's the bodily conception. And one is born, as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions, this song Bulia Tomara. So, in that song, it's in Sharanagati. It's a great poem, but in the beginning of that song, or that first part, he's mentioning about how he was born in this material world. And he was suffering in the womb, and he was thinking, when he's getting out, and he's thinking, let me worship Krishna. But then being born, he forgets Krishna. We all forget Krishna. And then we're immediately born, and then it's, then there's, mom and dad and uncle, this and that, or whatever, maybe some brother, some sister, some pet dog. And then it reinforces the misconception of thinking that I am the body. Because then it's like, who's my shelter? Who's taking care of me? Is it Krishna? No, it's my mom, it's my dad. And then you're growing up in that way, and then you go to school, and then you learn, whatever, ABC, and so many different things, and the number system, and then, history, and you learn the history of the nation, and then you're singing songs. Just like I remember we used to sing one song in elementary school. Hey, it was some simple song, but I don't know if this is a thing, but anyways, but it was a song we sung, and it was like all the states, we would sing them in order from A to Z. And then the last, we would say that this state's the best. And so, of course, that state was Florida, because we were living in Florida. So Florida was the best of all the states in the United States. And then, of course, of all the states in the all the cities in Florida, Orlando was the best, because we were in Orlando. And then, of course, everywhere in Orlando, my house was the best, because that's the house I grew up in. So this is the material conception of life. And then you grow up, and then it becomes more expanded. So the family is so great, so wonderful. And then, and then even too within the family, there's the interplay of reinforcing the false ego. Because then if you're good, you're like, you're a great honor to the family. You did so well in school, or you became such a great material success. Mother and father are proud of you. And then if you're not, it's like, even it's just like, we're so disgraced if you're a dishonor to the family. What is this, everybody's done like this. We all became doctors, but you didn't become a doctor. And, whatever. You joined the Hare Krishnas and ruined your life. What the heck is this? Or whatever. Well, I don't understand, you were so close to getting your degree and then you left it. Why aren't you doing anything with your degree? What is, this is insanity. You gave up, your culture and everything to join some Hindu thing. This is nonsense. Some families support it, but then some people speak like that. And then, country, and then I have to fight for my country, I have to fight for my nation. And then it goes into war like that. And then people fight, and then other people that they may not fight, but then they may, get into, and there's so many different departments of the government one can get into. And then also, too, with that misconception, because it's a duality, right? So then when one has this misconception of I and the body or whatever, I, me, and mine, that creates a duality. And then automatically there's an opposing thing. So, I am an American, so therefore I don't like Russia, or hate communism. Or I'm Chinese, therefore I hate America, like that. I don't think they hate capitalism because, they're making money off that. Whether you're communist, this, that, the other thing, nobody hates money. Everybody loves money. That's one true thing, because you need money to, build these bombs and things like that. Otherwise, or whatever. And it's not just about building bombs, but also to making things more economically efficient. Just like if one nation has, some developed technology better than another nation, then that opposing nation will send spies or things like that, try to figure out that technology or whatever it is, different elements like that. And so that misconception's there or whatever, And then we saw like that, or at least I saw like that growing up, that most people growing up, or some of my friends, they were, especially after, 9/11 and those things like that, which it wasn't even, very clear to most people about, who the opponent was. Anyways, I mean, not naming names, but, what I think it was George Bush, the younger one, was explaining we're at war with Al Qaeda and weapons of mass destruction and all these different things, and then most common people had a big thing hating so many different people in the Middle East without really concern about who actually the enemy was. They just hate the people in the Middle East because they attacked America and they're against freedom and all things like that. It was actually not true. And then what happened was that America goes over there and trying to force democracy on people that didn't really want it. But then the misconception, well, they're against America, they're like that. And then that duality's there. And then in America, and then over there, they're hating Americans because they're killing innocent people. And then they're burning flags, and then they show that on the news, and then they're thinking, oh, they hate America. So then it's going in that bodily misconception of life. So this I and mine, the duality comes. So, I am this body, therefore I don't like anything that opposes this body. So Srila Prabhupada, in so many different points in the Bhagavad Gita, they mention that. I'll just read some here too. But what is this? This is a nice verse also that kind of touches on that. I really like this verse, but what is this? Saridam yadava. Oh, sorry. Shrotram chakshu sparshanam cha rasanam granam eva cha adishtayam manashchayam vishayan upasevate. So this is the 9th verse of the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We've quoted this verse often, but it says, the living entity, thus taking another gross body, attains a certain type of ear, eyes, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. And so this is a system, actually. The living entity acquires a material body, gets some certain types of senses, and then he enjoys he suffers. And so this is the unfortunate situation. So we discussed all those different things, and the solution to it, as Srila Prabhupada explains here, that so this I and mine, one has to come to the conception that I am the eternal servitor of the Lord. And so that's the pure consciousness, which is being discussed in this verse, actually, this pure self. So when one thinks of himself that, I'm a servant of Krishna, that because we have to think of something, we can't just, nothing is mine, so therefore, I had some note here, let me pull it up. Nothing is mine, so therefore, I don't know where I put them. Oh, here we go. Anyways. Okay, here we go. Yeah, but anyways, sorry, put some other stuff there. So anyways, if we think that nothing is mine, we have to come to the positive, solution. And then we have to be actually attached to Krishna. Just to touch on it a little bit, but Prabhupada really goes on the point. He mentions the point of I also. So and then we talked a little bit about that, I am God, like that. And then this philosophy of neti neti, which means not this, not this. Some Gyanis employ that. And pretty much the idea is that, that you explain, well, I'm not, then negating. So then you're trying to figure out, well, what I am. So I'm not this body. I'm not this hand. I'm not American. I'm not, I'm not wearing a blue jacket. So it's, coming to that, I'm not wearing, I'm not this, I'm not. So then what are you? Then you come to that point. Anyways, you come to you're supposed to come to the point that, well, you're spirit soul. But then that's not complete, because then what are the activities of a spirit soul? I'm not this, I'm not that. What am I? I am Brahman. Then what is Brahman? Brahman can't be, you can't say what Brahman is. Well then, you can't say what it is and isn't. Then you get in this whole little cycle, this loop, and then you're in another illusion because you don't actually know what anything is. And then it comes back to the same thing. Well, I know because I feel the eternality. But even too, you can feel the eternality. You can be liberated from the material energy, be situated in the Brahmajyoti. But ayorchakchena, what is it? Ayorchakchena padam yata padantnido yusmanan grayaha. So you could still fall down from that position, because the Brahman platform of being aloof from material association, but not being attached to Krishna, is not a secure position. So you can still fall down from that. But most people, especially in this day and age, they don't get that far. So then, they come to this, I'm not this, and then they feel it, I am spiritual. But Srila Rupa Sanatana Goswami asking Lord Chaitanya explains very clearly, Nitya Siddha Krishna Das, that the living entity is Sarup, simply speaking, is that he's a servant of Krishna. That's the understanding. And so we're servants of Krishna. And so when we're fixed in that perfection that, Srila Prabhupada is making here, he put it in italics. I am the eternal servitor of the Lord. This is pure consciousness, and the whole Vedic literatures teach us this conception of life. That's what the Vedas are teaching. That's what all the Vedas are talking about. Maybe in an indirect way, but this is the point, that we're eternal servants of Krishna. And so I want to read something here from Srila Prabhupada. I'll read two things. So let me see here. Anyways, we don't need to read this. We already talked about this. So this is from this is actually Srila Prabhupada spoke on this verse actually. So this is from a class that he spoke on. So Prabhupada, practical application means this I and mine. It is all misconception. Everything belongs to Krishna. Krishna. Maybe I missed something. Anyways, everything belongs to Krishna. I am his servant. When I say I means I am servant of Krishna. And if I say mine, Krishna is mine. I am Krishna. I am Krishna's. Krishna is mine. That is perfect I and mine. And all I am Brahman, I am God, I am the Supreme, I am moving the stars, just like these rascals. They think that. That is rascaldom. So, we're not moving the stars. Some people, they think like that. And so anyways, so many crazy things that people say, but we won't get so much into that right now. So this is the thing that, I am Krishna's, Krishna's property. I think I got copied a little wrong here, and it says I am Krishna, but we are not Krishna. We are Krishna's. So we're servants of Krishna. And so when we reinforce in that conception, the proper conception, the purified ego and the purified thing, and then it expands, just like a material life, your material life expands when, whatever, you engage in sex life, or you do this or do that, or, whatever, you just go about your day. And the material conception of life, the misconceptions expand. So when you're properly situated in Krishna consciousness, the reality expands. And it just, it's not that you join the Krishna consciousness and then everything, you just lose everything. You lose your money, you lose your family, you lose, you lose this, you lose everything. You lose your shoes, you lose your identity, you just, your ego dissolves. your false ego dissolves, but then the real ego comes. And then, you get so many friends in Krishna consciousness, and you get so many fun things to do and so many nice foods and so many, it's like, I don't know, anyways. In material life, maybe some people were partying really hard before Krishna consciousness for days on end. And then you join the Krishna consciousness, and then you could party days on end too on Janmashtami. You could stay up all night and just, chant. And then get up early in the morning and chant some more. And then the amazing thing about Janmashtami is it's a party for practically 48 hours. Who's throwing parties like that in the material world? Nobody is. They got some clubs and things like that. One devotee used to tell me that he used to stay and find, what is it not? And back in New York on, I forget, the 52nd Street, I think, or something like that. And so he would stay there, and then he would go out and go to, I forget exactly, anybody know? Studio 42 or something? I can't remember. Anyways, there's a club right down the street from the Hare Krishna temple back in the day. And he used to stay with the temple, and then he would leave and party all night. And then he would say that there's no windows in there, so he wouldn't see the sun setting or rising, and he would come out and be like, I just partied 24 hours. But the thing is, Krishna consciousness, you could party for 24 hours. And the thing is that's just the beginning, because in the spiritual world, it's a party nonstop and eternally partying. And the amazing thing about the spiritual world too is that there's Goloka Vrindavan, but then there's also Navadvip. Lord Chaitanya is engaging in his pastimes, and it's a non-stop Sankirtan party of chanting the holy names of the Lord. And I mean, it's ecstatic because we have this material body, which is sometimes a drag. And we get sleepy, and then we have to go to the bathroom. At times we don't want to go to the bathroom. And we have to eat, and then we eat sometimes, then we just get sleepy, and then we get sick. Who wants to get sick? It's like nobody wants to get sick. And then nowadays is get sick, and then you have to go and get surgery, and then they cut you open, and it's just nasty. And then it's like ugh. And then what's inside the body is guts and nasty things like that. But it's nicely covered in some skin, so we look very pretty sometimes. And then the body gets old. Who wants to get old? And then we get two people here, stupid people that come and they're like, oh, I want to get old. I want to suffer, but they don't want to suffer. They're just talking nonsense. So the material body is just it's a bad bargain. So we're engaging in Krishna consciousness, and we're tasting that nectar and tasting that bliss, and that's some inspiration for us to make us come to the conclusion that material body is, I want to be fully Krishna conscious all day, every day, 24 hours. And if there's more, and there's more hours than that, let me get that too to be Krishna consciousness. There's a 40-hour day, let's do it. I know, was it Bhakti Vikas Maharaj he was saying something along the lines that we're campaigning, that people they're arguing for whatever. Nowadays it's people work 5 days a week for 10 hours, something like that, and then they want to reduce the working hours so people have more time. But he's saying we're campaigning for the 24-hour work week, being Krishna conscious all 24 hours. So anyways, going back to that Janmashtami party, so we party all day, 24 hours, and then the next day we celebrate the divine appearance of Srila Prabhupada, which is super ecstatic and amazing and blissful. Because in material world, there's so many people who are people thankful for? First of all, it's just who's we celebrating in America? Who's there's Christmas, which some people kind of was debatable, but it's if we look at it, we're not really celebrating anybody's appearance day in America. It's there's really nobody that important, or even if there are two people important, historically speaking, nobody really gives them so much honor. Or if there is two, there's some controversy, that whatever this person did that, but then they also killed so many innocent people. But we don't see that in Srila Prabhupada's character, that he did all these crazy things like that. He was completely pure, completely amazing. There's an understatement these things are saying, but we see that so many, on that day that Srila Prabhupada advented, that appeared, that he that now and so many different centers, there's thousands of devotees, they're all glorifying Srila Prabhupada. They all have something to say. Who's that personality in the world that, so many people are gathering and glorifying nowadays? Nobody, I can't think of anybody that people are glorifying like that. There's some religious people, which is good, that's proper. But Srila Prabhupada, and the thing is too, that Srila Prabhupada didn't come to establish, a day to glorify himself. He came to establish Krishna. And as a result of being so pure and being so surrendered to Krishna and just being so lovable, everybody just fell in love with Srila Prabhupada. And we see that with his disciples also, completely indebted. And still to this day, just hearing about Srila Prabhupada, just like we see that, Rukmini, she just heard about Krishna from Narada Muni. She became completely attracted. So simply just by hearing about these spiritual personalities like Srila Prabhupada, Rupa Goswami, Krishna, Lord, all these, we become attracted. And so when we become attracted, then that reality increases, and then we want to do something. We want to do something, because we, naturally when we love somebody, we have some attraction to somebody, or we feel a little indebted. We think, well, what can I do to please that person? So then we think, well, what can I do to please that person? And the only thing, there's nothing really that you can do to please the guru. You can do so many things to please the guru, but to repay that debt, there's not much you can do. Just like, we have our spiritual masters. And they've saved us from so much nonsense and so many misconceptions. Because we take up to Krishna consciousness, and we still have so many misconceptions. And then the misconception becomes, I am Krishna consciousness, but let me enjoy Krishna. So we want to get free from that misconception, because that is not a good misconception to have, that, I want to enjoy Krishna. But we hear the proper philosophy, the proper siddhanta, about how to get free from these misconceptions and be situated in the proper spiritual reality. And so we're indebted to these great personalities. And so at least the only thing that we can do is just give our life to their lotus feet and surrender on them completely. And if we give everything to them, amazing things actually happen. We become free from material desires. And that's a big thing, actually, to become free from material desires. We get the association of great sadhus. Because if we have material desires, man, we'll go all over the universe just chasing those things down. We could see that maybe even in this life, I was so many things that I was trying to do, be this, whatever I was doing before Krishna consciousness, I was really egotistical about it, and I was trying to be the best at it, better than everybody else. And if you're trying to be better than everybody, you have to work super hard to do that. So working super hard and like that, just being completely materialistic. And then it just takes us all around the universe. And then we're trying to do this and trying to do that. And, sometimes in the heavenly planets, sometimes in the lower planets, doing what? There's a little bit of sense gratification. So when we get the mercy of these great personalities, like Srila Prabhupada, like our spiritual masters, like the Vaishnavas, so many different things, it changes and transforms our life. And so those misconceptions of I and mine, they begin to fade away. There's this verse, I'll pull up the translation here, but it's, what is it? How is that verse? I can always quote it, except when I'm on the Vyasa-san. But let's see here. What's that? How does it start? Let me find it here. Okay. Yet seva yagnir iva ruda rodanam pumman vijayan malamatmanas tamaha. So those specific lines, so those lines explain that, so one who wants to be free of material entanglement should take to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and give up the contamination of ignorance involving pious and impious activities. Thus one regains his original identity, just as a block of gold or silver sheds all dirt and becomes purified when treated with fire. May that inexhaustible Supreme Personality of Godhead become our spiritual master, for he is the original spiritual master of all other spiritual masters. So specifically that point, by engaging in devotional service, we gain our original identity. And the example is giving here of gold being heated, or silver, becoming freed from the impurities. So, we engage in that process of Krishna consciousness, and then all those things start to slip away. And so many great things happen. And then we get a life in Krishna consciousness. Because some people think, what do you do? And then, so many different amazing things. I can't justify it in words, because everybody's living it. You see that, going out on book distribution, cooking for Krishna, living in the temple, traveling around, learning, the different, aspects of Vaishnava culture, getting to meet amazing personalities, like that too. Even sometimes having some mess ups and things like that. That's purifying, and that helps us grow in Krishna consciousness. And Lord Chaitanya explains that to Rupa Goswami. Just like the creeper devotional service has to be constantly watered, and then it grows and nicely bears the fruit of love of Godhead. And so we have to stay on guard. We have to stay attentive. But Krishna consciousness. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to become attached to Krishna and then develop this I and mind in Krishna consciousness. And that is proper and that's okay. And that's how we conquer over all these other trivial things. And so we should be on guard too, because we may be living in the temple and then maybe thinking in terms of I, me, and mine. Just like one devotee was telling me one time that they asked one devotee, I think it was the temple president, but their car broke down for Sankirtan or something, and they needed like a car to like drive to like the Harinam spot or something like that. But the temple president was like absolutely against it. They're like, absolutely not. You cannot use the car, So, anyways, maybe there was justification for it, maybe not. But we should be on guard of, accumulating things and then not wanting to use them in Krishna service while living in the temple. Because then we're living in the temple, but then we're in material consciousness. And we don't want to do that, because then that's not a good thing either. So we always have to be striving for surrendering everything to Krishna and giving up the false material conceptions. Because also, too, I'm thinking that one time I was in a temple with a devotee, and anyways, we were rooming together, and nothing unusual strikes me from those days. We'd do our different services, and then I'd come up and just read in that room, and then whenever I had some time, then I would go. And then one day he just kind of like, snapped a little bit and just was like freaking out and just like, you have a problem with me? And I was just like, no, I don't have a problem with you. I was like, he's like, and the thing is, we were rooming together and like, just like, we didn't really talk that much, because, we're just mostly doing different things. And I was just like, whatever with it. But he was just like so disturbed, and he thought like I was like against him and this and that, and there's like something like, I have some problem with him, and I think he's puffed up and this, and he was just like going out, and I was like, I don't think there's like nothing the matter with you. Now I'm thinking something's the matter with you, but but up until that point I was thinking it's all right. But anyway, so it was just like there was nothing going on. But anyways, he was in the temple, but not really in the temple. Anyways, I won't explain the full story, but he literally went crazy as time went on. And they had to get an ambulance came for him. And anyways, it's a sad story, but he's probably doing better now. But the thing is that he was living in the temple, but not really in the temple. So the temple life more or less should be harmonious, but we have to endeavor to be Krishna conscious in that situation. We come to Krishna consciousness and we see all the amazing things and the amazing journey and opportunities that are ahead of us, but we have to take that opportunity. We have to seize the moment, and we have to endeavor in that way. And there's so many amazing things in Krishna consciousness, so much fun, so much action, so much adventure, and it's blissful. And the amazing thing about Krishna consciousness, whether you're some sannyasi traveling all around the world, preaching to millions of people, or you're some devotee who's distributing a couple books out here and there, or you're opening so many centers, or you're just some simple housewife, or whatever it may be, or whatever it is, or maybe you just have a position that's not really well known. It's blissful for everybody. And Krishna reciprocates with his devotee, big, small, here, there, and he loves everybody. And the spiritual master too loves everybody. And we have to in our own individual position, we have to understand and use our intelligence to think of what does surrender actually mean in my position. And we have to endeavor to the best of our ability to surrender 100% as much as we can, and always act in a way that will please the spiritual master and please the devotees, and be thinking in that way. We have to be sincere ultimately. That's what it comes down to be sincere in Krishna consciousness. And that is easy and that is difficult. And so it's easy if we actually really deep down inside desire to be Krishna conscious. And that's something that we individually all have to choose to do. It's not something that, I can't sit up in class and, be Krishna conscious, or else I'm going to hit you. It's like you can give the classes and we can speak, but Prabhupada said there comes a time where you have to fly your own plane. And so we all have to fly our own plane. We all have to make decisions sometimes and choices, but we should do what we need to do to become Krishna conscious and endeavor in that way to please and serve the spiritual master. I'll make one last point. There was something I was gonna say as a side point, but I don't. Anyway, there's no point in making it unless there's time. But it was just something I read in one of Srila Prabhupada's conversations. He's talking about reading the books and then cow protection. But the last point I want to make is I just want to talk a little bit. Well, we'll go back to that point about 24-hour party in Janmashtami. So, I mentioned that last time about Charadesham Prabhu was talking about that kirtan. So, going back, so anyways, going to another point. So, Shama Sundar Prabhu, one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, he's well known for he wrote that book, Chasing Rhinos, and then Taking Risks for Srila Prabhupada. And if you don't know, he joined, I think, in 67 or 68, I think 67. And so just, being very short, he came up with the idea to try to meet the Beatles in Europe at the time when they were big. I think they were just broken up around then. Anyways, it doesn't matter. We don't need to get into Beatle history. But he went to go and try to meet the Beatles what's it called? No, they didn't break up at the time because he was listening. They were recording their last album when he went to go see them. So anyway, he went to go and meet them. So he pitched that idea to Srila Prabhupada, and they went, a group of householders, and they met the Beatles actually, and they established Krishna consciousness in the UK and in London, and they released a record at the time, records, and it was very popular. And they did a lot, actually. And then they did some wild stuff, too, like sneaking in different places and like that. And Shama Sundar Prabhu, if you see his life also after, he left Krishna consciousness for some time, but he was always living some type of crazy life. He had that bhav, and he had that karma. So he took so many risks for Srila Prabhupada, and financial also, and health. And in some ways, maybe he neglected his family also. And he did so much to serve Srila Prabhupada and to help establish Krishna consciousness. And he was successful also, and he met so many different famous people. And also, too, if you look back also, there's letters there. I knew also before reading his book, and he mentions a little in his book, but a lot of people actually were annoyed with him because for different reasons. I won't get into the reasons they were annoyed with him. But he had done some things which justifiably, people were fried out with him. And so, and even too, he mentions in his book that his sadhana wasn't so good. And at one point, actually, it really struck me. But it's a couple paragraphs, but he pretty much just kind of describes his position. And spiritually speaking, if someone were to say some of those things, you think, wow, that person's not doing very good. And so he ends it all kind of what's going to happen to me? And so he did go through his difficulties and things like that, and he speaks about that in his book. And so many different things I was reflecting on just by reading that, and so many points struck home to me. But so he took so many risks for Srila Prabhupada, and a lot of risks. And they did he did amazing things actually, and Srila Prabhupada was really pleased with them. And we see that also with other Prabhupada's, and in other Prabhupada's disciples, of taking a lot of risk to spread Krishna consciousness, and Krishna reciprocating greatly. And so he took all these different risks and things like that. And then also too, after his life also, without getting so much into the details, but he went and one important point actually before that. So Srila Prabhupada on different occasions actually told him that, anyways, I'm just kind of just sharing some stuff with you right now that I found interesting. So Srila Prabhupada told him on different occasions, paraphrasing, that, Prabhupada explaining in his own life that he wanted to become a rich man, and so he was endeavoring very much, and as soon as he was about to become successful, Krishna took away everything, and he became broke and things like that. Then he thought, well, let me become a preacher. And he was explaining how that was like Krishna's mercy, that, sometimes we endeavor greatly for material things and then Krishna takes it away. And Srila Prabhupada on multiple occasions was warning him about, his business enterprise, that, maybe don't do it, things like that. But Shambhasuna Prabhu explains, like, that, he wasn't really listening. He's like, what, I can do it, I can figure it out. And Prabhupada told one of his disciples that, that he has some material fantasies that he needs to, like, carry out. And, I think something along the lines that he'll be purified or Krishna will, like, crush him. So anyways, sometimes the point I'm saying this is sometimes we may hear something in Krishna consciousness, or someone may tell us something, or we may read something, and we may hear it and think, yeah, but then we really need the vegan. So anyway, Shambhasuna Prabhu did all those different things for many years, and he got the vegan. And he was saying how, like, so many times he was so close to becoming so rich and things, and then something would happen, Krishna would just take it all away. Like he got all these, like, high-class jewels, and he was thinking, now I'm going to sell these and, make so much money, and like this and that, and then, whatever, I'll use it for Krishna consciousness. And he was explaining that he got them all and he sent them, and they confiscated all of them in India. They took all of, like, his high-class jewels. And he was just thinking, he'd, like, lost everything. And then time and time again, he would find different jewel mines and, like, they, like, hit jackpot. He was really expert actually in finding them. And so he would go and find them and think, this is it, I'm going to come out big. And then something would happen, the government would just take it. And then it happened, like, it's in the end of his book. Anyways, but it happened like 10 times or something. Every time you just keep losing it. And he was thinking back to what Prabhupada was, like, telling him, that, like, he had these fantasies and he was risking his life and, like, living in the jungle for like 6 years in the Amazon and, like, some crazy stuff. He says some wild things in there too, that at one point, like, a rattlesnake was, like, crawling on his leg, and he was just laying there and it, like, looked him into his eyes and, like, coiled. He's got, like, tons of crazy wild stories, and they're really wild. And I'm explaining some of those for a reason. There was one time too that there was a jaguar that was circling around him. And I don't remember all the details about that. But anyway, somehow or other, I think they were, like, hanging on some rope or something in, like, the dark Amazon jungle. It was, like, growling. Eventually it left. They were lost in the middle of the woods. And so many different crazy things like that where he almost, like, died. And so he explains that, like, all these different, like, things that he did. And he says all these amazing things too, all these amazing rainbows and seeing all these different amazing things. Yeah, and he says he doesn't talk about it so much, and he's not going to write a book about it all, because all those different experiences that he went through and all those different times that he had, in comparison to his time with Srila Prabhupada and risking everything to him and associating with him, it means nothing. And I'll actually read from that part where he talks about that in his book, actually. Because it's amazing, actually, because sometimes we may think, in the material world, maybe that would be better or whatever it is, but he more or less materially did everything. And he was saying, it was useless in comparison to his time with Srila Prabhupada and in Krishna consciousness. So just give me a second to find it. Hopefully I find it. I think I know where it's at. And I'll just read that part where he talks about, like, Srila Prabhupada. I should have looked for it before class. Okay, let's see here. It's actually really nice. Actually, if I can't find it, I think I saved it on my phone too. Okay, this is it. So I'll just read a little bit about that. So let's see here. So he's kind of just, like, writing to Srila Prabhupada. Looking back, maybe I took this risking a little too far, starting with that ruby mine in India. Back in 1972, when I first stumbled across these rubies, you said, you take this opportunity Krishna has given, now you do it and let's see what happens. So let me just jump here. Actually, I don't think this is it. Anyways, I can paraphrase, but he explains, anyways, I kind of said it, but so he explains that all these different risks he was taking and things, it doesn't compare to the association he had with Srila Prabhupada, and he values that so much, and he meditates on that so much, and even after so many years. So the thing is that Krishna consciousness, it makes such an impression on our mind, greater than anything that the material world has to offer. He did so much, he made so much money, he lost so much money, he traveled here and there, more or less, had a crazy, life, materially speaking. But even that short time he spent in Krishna consciousness, he couldn't forget that, actually. And he's even, now he's completely indebted to Srila Prabhupada. And so many different memories. You can listen to his memories. There's this whole section of not fallen Prabhupada, but Prabhupada memories, where he talks about his memories with Srila Prabhupada and some of the the crazy things that happened and he said and did, because he did a lot of wild stuff. With things that some of the things that he did, if we were to do today, they would probably be kicked out of the movement. Like just some of the like that, or just be like, what does it matter with this person? So anyways, that was like back when things were getting started off. But he took so much risk to spread Krishna consciousness. So much surrender. But I was thinking also too that reading after that, that he went off and he did his business thing, and he did that for so many years and took so many risks and things like that. And he's a great personality for his surrender. But and I don't think he would disagree with this. But Krishna arranges everything for a reason. But just a little philosophical speculation. And I think this can be said for a lot of devotees. But what if instead of going on that whole adventure and doing all that things and being in the Amazon jungles and taking all those crazy risks and risking his life and things like that, what if he had just stuck somehow or other, like Srila Prabhupada had told him, and gave up the material fantasy and just stuck with it? Of course he went through it and he got purified and he realized that. But what if he's just stuck with it and took all those risks for Krishna? What would life have been like that way? So sometimes in Krishna consciousness also, someone may be, and having some difficulty or whatever the situation may be. And so we should try to help that individual, whatever the situation may be, even if that person, is annoying, did this, that, and the other thing. Because some of his godbrothers actually were fried out with him, and they had reason to be fried out with him. And of course, he chose this, that, and the other thing and went his own way. But sometimes, something maybe could be done if we preached to that person or done something or went a little bit more out of our way. Because the thing is that if we look at it from another perspective, though we may be fried out with a devotee or this, that, the other thing, that devotee is still dear to his spiritual master and dear to Krishna. So if we endeavor in that way, so that person may be able to do so many great things, or may be able to still be engaged in Krishna consciousness. And of course, he came back and everything like that. And I haven't finished the book, and I'm sure he'll talk about that. And he did keep association with like devotees and things like that during that time. He had some close friends and things. I'm not criticizing him in any way or like that. He's much senior to me. But I'm just speaking on that point just to show that, that we should go out of our way. And also, too, that is an aspect of service in Krishna consciousness, to help devotees stay in Krishna consciousness, despite whatever they may be going through, so that they don't go out in the material world and work hard, that they stay in Krishna consciousness and work hard. But he released, published these books and wrote so much about his experiences with Srila Prabhupada, and at least I get some inspiration from that, and I like his memories and things like that. And when I first, actually, a lot of work he did for Krishna consciousness has a lot to do about how I came to Krishna consciousness and the association with devotees, because he was the one that got the money for the Krishna book and brought George Harrison to Krishna consciousness, got him to write the foreword to the Krishna book, which is the first book that I found, and it's also the book that His Holiness Bhakti Vikash Maharaj found. And a lot of devotees came to Krishna consciousness back in the day through that whole George Harrison thing. And so he has a lot to do with me actually coming to Krishna consciousness, because he got that, he asked for the donation for that to get that book published and things like that, and went out of his way so much so. And in that way, preach Krishna consciousness and help spread. So I'm indebted to him very much so, and to so many devotees and things like that. But I just wanted to mention that particular instance of, of what if and things like that, and just to inspire us to always go out of our way, no matter how difficult it is, to try to help somebody in Krishna consciousness. And I've had experiences that sometimes, you may really go out of your way to try to help somebody in Krishna consciousness, but they just may not take it, or maybe it's just too far gone. That's also there. Somebody can be too far gone or just become offensive. But we should try, and as much as possible. And there's different instances of devotees also, of devotees doing that. There's one devotee that was offensive to Srila Prabhupada, And nobody wanted anything to do with him. But there was one Mataji, actually, that devotee would come, I think, to the Hare Krishna temple in New York, and she would preach to them and try to help him. And eventually, actually, I think she helped him become a little bit more favorable. And he kind of chilled out a little bit and took up to Krishna consciousness some way or other. So, anyways, that's all I have to say. Sorry, I kind of went on there a little bit about that little side point. But anyways, Hare Krishna. So if anybody has any questions or comments about anything, we can open that now. Some short thing. Anything on Mataji's side? Yes.
You know, we often hear being Krishna conscious for 24 hours, but what about that period when you're sleeping? Like, how do you control your dreams or your mind, or what are you doing? Like,
Yeah. So one thing we can think about is that when we're sleeping, that we're resting the body to serve Krishna again. But Srila Prabhupada would often say too that what we think about in the day, we think about at night. So if we're Krishna conscious in the day, we'll be Krishna conscious in our dreams. And so obviously that takes some time. At least, we may have a lot of material desires or whatever, some random stuff pops up. So it's a process and we have to try, but it's definitely possible to dream of whatever the book distribution. I think devotees have had it. I think we've all had experiences of going to bed and dreaming and it being Krishna conscious or really far out, or like we're in some kirtan or chanting or taking darshan and it's like wow, or we're with the spiritual master or something. So it's a process, just like it's a process to be Krishna conscious, even like when we're awake, when we're in the real reality conscious. But it is possible. It just takes practice and time to get purified and up to that level. So yes, yeah, you can.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Kalki Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I was really appreciating that point about, people may believe you say Jesus, Muhammad or something like that. But if you say you're George Washington or you're Trump or you're something like that, then people think you're crazy. And I thought that the reason because of this is because of the influence of Mayavad, that they think so much that God is not a person, that they're okay with you being God, but not okay with you being George Washington.
Yeah.
Because they knew that such a person actually existed.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, that is the influence of Mayavad. Anything else? All right. Thank you all. Oh, you have something?
Yeah,
Sorry.
This is just more, so you talked about misconceptions, with false ownership, this is mine, and then also with about I am, this body, and this relation and whatnot. As it relates to the misconception of I am nobody, I am nothing.
Yeah.
Where would you say that kind of falls? I remember you saying that mine is kind of more animalistic. It's on the lower end.
Yeah.
And even though I am is also still false identifying, it's still on the higher platform or higher conception. So where would you say that nothing essentially falls?
I am nothing.
Yeah.
It's on a higher thing. I am nothing. It's not grossly animalistic as this is this is my cup and this is my shirt, but it's a little bit higher than that, because then it's I am nothing, I am some, it's some ethereal thing. It's Buddhism, which is bogus, but it's a higher concept, because then it's I am nothing, that means nothing is mine or whatever. Or maybe I don't really think they think like that, but then there's some conception of nothing is mine. So it's higher, but then still it's it's incomplete, because we're not nothing anyway. We are actually something. So, but it's a little bit more developed, like that. So, all right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.